perfect.
What we do, the things we say, not allowed on YouTube. Reality's ours. Reality's ours. We might be retards. Reality's ours.
That's right. It's time for another episode of Reality Czars with your hosts, Nate and Thomas the Paranoid Motherfucking American. This show is full of highly opinionated, offensive, and outright degenerate commentary. Proceed at your own risk, and welcome to the Reality Czars.
And we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is Reality Czars Podcast, and we are hosts tonight, Nate and Thomas the Paranoid Motherfucking American.
Well, calm down. Calm down.
That was a brand new intro made by Thomas. What do you call it? Sound Science? Is that what we go by?
So, well,
your-
Sound Scientists, which is a
Sound
legitimate
Scientists.
group that I was in that we had music on Adult Swim, MTV, VH1, Bum Fights. If anyone ever saw the old Bum Fights, I had some music on there. But yeah, I've like Lazarus, I've brought it back out of the grave, and we've reanimated Sound Scientists to just put out pure meme music goodness. So yeah, Sound Scientists.
Fuck yeah, dude. It's the shit. I love it, dude. And we are welcomed by BG Cast. Brother, I don't know what BG Cast means. And I should have asked you before we got started. What does BG Cast mean?
So you want to know what's really funny about BG Cast is, so originally this podcast began back in 2020 during the whole lockdown and COVID times. And originally I was starting it with another buddy of mine. And, he was on the vibe, the wavelength that we all are. And, we're both kind of into health and fitness. So we kind of named it after the state of the Vikings, Berserker Gang, so that's what we originally called it. But back in 2020, there was a lot of things going on, some life issues that I had to take care of. So, I had to put the podcast down temporarily. How it all came back into being again was back in October of 2022. I had been following Ben Davidson from Suspicious Observers for a little bit. I kind of liked his work, and I saw he was doing a meet and greet in Colorado Springs. So I ended up heading down there, to get to know him. We started chatting, and I kind of brought up on how he's trying to get on Joe Rogan's podcast, but he was getting ignored a lot. And I kind of just jokingly threw out there, like, I used to have a podcast, but I was thinking of starting it back up. And he looked at me dead ass serious, and he was like, "I'll get on it." And then I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So then the universe kind of started rolling, and, I already had a logo designed for everything. And of course, me, like, I'm a tradesman, but, I'm not made of money exactly. So I kind of just utilized what I had, just kind of redacted the name, and kind of turned it into BG Cast. And now I kind of say it stands for the big G, for like God or the universe or something like that. So that's kind of the new, the new meaning that I've kind of tailored to it, man. But
Very amazing of you, buddy. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. You're not the first to ask that too. Joe and Jen from Legit Bad on my network also asked me that. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting story.
Awesome, dude. We have some fucking schizo that is like hitting up our page left and right and calling us all kinds of wild shit. And so we're definitely going to be accused of being in the Illuminati, having you on. So let's all cover up one eye. And we're just confirming this right now. Illuminati.
Shout out to my fan club that
shout out to
with me being a Catholic.
That goofball schizo.
The thing, I see this on you guys' pages too, and not just you, a couple of other people's pages, man. I'm grateful I have not had to deal with it as much as some people. So But I get you, man. There's some interesting people out there.
Apparently, I bring them out. I'm not. I didn't even go looking for them, but yeah, hide in my fan club.
Actually, I take that back. I usually I joked the universe wanted to show me the other day. They just wanted to show me this because usually I'm you can ask a lot of people who know me. I'm pretty chill and drama free. Some people even called me wholesome, even though that's debatable. But so I'm a service electrician, and I end up going to do this call, right? And I pull up to the house, and there's a Black Lives Matter, there's the We Love Science, all the virtue signaling stuff outside and all that about this house that I'm about to go walk into. And I'm like, okay, money's money to me. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, at least in this aspect. So I go in, and there's a white female with like these colored dreadlocks that opens the door, and she just gives me this appalled look. And I look at her, and I was like, hi, I'm Steven. I'm here to do your estimate for your electrical and stuff like that. So I go in, and like, she didn't really say much to me of anything to me the whole time. And, I kind of gave her the quote, and, she looked appalled at me, and she goes, so I have a question. She goes, number one, this quote seems astronomical. And she goes, two, if I decide to use you again, do you mind not sending a white male here? And I'm like sitting. And mind you, this is in downtown Denver, which is, you would call a very, very highly leftist place. And I looked at her, and, I just smiled. I said, sure. So this is what I'll do. I'll put a note on your file for you, to send Hispanic electrician instead of white electrician. And, thanks for using us and have a nice day. And, I never really encountered that. It seems like I've had almost this kind of shield up around me, but then I guess the universe was like, nah, you need to.
It's called white privilege, actually, that shield that you've had around you.
Oh.
Was it she looking for a Latin guy? Is that what it was?
Well, so that's not even what it was. You just, I think that she, like the typical individual who's kind of in that group, is maybe self-hating to some degree. And the fact that she was a white female, and she told me she didn't want a white male electrician. She didn't specify what she wanted, but she said
that BBC, bro.
I'm telling you, man.
Like the electrician to come in, she was hoping he had a big, fat, thick black hog, and then she was going to negotiate the price by blowing him.
I'm telling you,
That's
dude. Maybe
what was going on.
Maybe if I just shot some blue hair dye on beforehand, it would have been acceptable. But I can't plan for situations like that. So, guys, bloodlines. I saw somebody wanted to chat about some bloodlines.
Yeah, dude. Shout out. Yeah, so I called this one Bloodlines. I know we discussed we were going to talk about some bloodlines. I'm ADHD as fuck, so I know I'm going to derail this conversation a bunch. But let's definitely talk about some bloodlines. Yeah, dude. Wherever you want to fucking start.
Let's hit it. So
Canaan. Where does this start?
So this starts, man. This was a theory that I developed this because when you kind of embark on this path, and you go down the rabbit holes and you look at everything, you start to see this really weird coincidence on how all of these presidents, and not only presidents, but actors in Hollywood, people who are on the media, even to a lot of these billionaire corporations, as the CEOs of these billionaire corporations, they all have a very similar bloodline. And this bloodline actually traces back.
Are we talking about tunnel dwellers right now?
Yes, we're talking about even tunnel dwellers too. And oh yes, man. And it's interesting on how it's just two people. It's Charlemagne. Now, Charlemagne's debatable. A lot of people debate whether or not Charlemagne actually existed. Some people think it was a manufactured story. Other people think it was real. And then there was King James the First, which is another descendant that a lot of these, presidents, actors, and all these people in Hollywood are related to. So this kind of, not to derail it, but it kind of led on with this other theory. So I'm a big believer at this point in time. I'm not saying I can't be swayed or I can't change this opinion, but I think there's a lot less real humans on the planet than we know. Right now we have 7 billion people. That's the general consensus. I think there's maybe in all actuality 2 to 3 billion real humans, and the rest are kind of in a different camp. And the reason why I say that, so we talk about the descendants of Adam, right, which would carry this Adamic bloodline or this Adamic blood type. And then you have the descendants of Cain, which is the Canaanite bloodline, which you can kind of look at potentially the Canaanite bloodline being a lot of these elites, these predator class that kind of look all over us and, you know, manipulate us the way they do. And then I have theories for the other ones. You know, I do think there are things here that are posing as humans that are not. I actually had a couple of experiences that have kind of pointed me in that direction. And then, you know, the other majority, I hate to say it because a lot of people don't like this term, but NPCs or some kind of energetic manifestation of some kind that is either playing its part, but, you know, nonetheless, I digress. It got me into thinking, is there a bloodline amongst us that they fear? You know, I've been kind of talking to a lot of people throughout the years. They've been saying that there's been an obsession with blood. Like a lot of awakened people or people in the wavelength have been getting their blood drawn a lot, like for just any reason possible. So that kind of just sparked up the curiosity in me. And then I kind of just did a little bit of research. I've always been really big into the Gnostic scriptures of Christianity. I think they paint a bigger picture and a better story than the traditional canonical texts. And there's a lot of information that leads to Jesus and Mary Magdalene potentially having children. So if you do the math, I did kind of this equation. Let's say Jesus and Mary had 4 kids, and those 4 kids had 4 kids each. And you go that down the timeline over the course of 2,000 plus years, you're potentially looking at 144,000 in that gene pool. So it wouldn't, the theory came up, wouldn't it not be interesting that if all of us who, you know, aside from the elites and the predator class who are all distantly related, a lot of us who are on this path, who are on this wavelength, are also in some way also distantly related because of this. So it was a very interesting theory. I mean, it sent me down a rabbit hole. I mean, it brought up the whole Rh negative topic. And there's even a rarer blood type, which
Rh null.
Rh null.
Yep.
So, and yep, it's called the golden blood, and it has no ties. That and Rh negative have no ties to the rhesus monkey antigen, which is an antigen that ties us to our closest ancestors. So the biggest question, the biggest question is honestly, like, where did this all originate from? What is the significance of these bloodlines? And it doesn't really truly have any impact on any actions or scenarios that are happening today.
That's all fascinating, dude. I've gone down a lot of similar theories and rabbit holes myself, and I kind of have my own little thoughts and opinions on all of that. But what you're talking about is really fascinating. So first of all, there being like other beings here besides humans, I toy with that idea a lot. It's one that is kind of hard. Like the skeptic in me has a hard time with that, but also the schizo in me loves that. So like I get down on that a lot. I also like the idea of the NPCs thing, like whether it's an actual fucking thing, like there is, like we are in a computer simulation and these are just like lines of code just designed to do like certain like stupid fucking tasks. Like, you know, the people that watch like Kim Kardashian show and can tell you everything about like gay things, really fucking gay things. And I mean gay in a 6th grader way, but also gay in a gay way. Like they can tell me all about fucking, I don't know, what's that horrible show? Anyways,
RuPaul's Drag Race.
that's a good show, actually. Like if anybody's real, RuPaul is a real person. I love RuPaul. But yeah, so I toy with that idea, and or if it doesn't fucking matter, and that they have been so co-opted and brainwashed and indoctrinated since they were a fucking child, and for generations upon generations, they might as well be a fucking NPC. They might as well not even be conscious. They're just kind of like just living, and so they're not even really a human. But I mean, I toy with it with like, is it like metaphorical or is it a real fucking reality? That's all fucking fascinating. And I also love the idea too, you're talking about the separate bloodlines and maybe where they split, like maybe the bloodlines that like the bloodline from Christ, right? They call the Merovingian bloodline, right? Where that came from, like Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And then there are the usurpers, the ones that are, I think, they're pretending that they have that Merovingian bloodline, and they probably have something more like some dark Canaan, like maybe from the line of Cain, kind of dark shit, and they're trying to co-opt that because, like, I'm talking about the tunnel dwellers right now. Like, there's a whole lot of them that I think are just pretending. They're not. They have nothing to do with like the 12 tribes of Israel. They're not the original. Like, they're not. They're just like European, fucking usurper. They're faking it.
Like
why? And then a huge percentage of them aren't even fucking religious, so you can't even make the argument that they are, anyways. And it gets real fucking weird, and it just seems like a weird power group of like psychos that have just consolidated power and are using the term Jew to like have it as a shield and say you can't criticize me or my actions, when really they're just like they're bad people. This particular group of people. I'm not saying everybody that's a fucking Jew is a bad person. I'm saying a particular group of fucking people are trash bag assholes and are like consolidating power and like just basically just like treating the rest of the fucking world like their playground and we're their fucking pawns. And these people just hide behind that as a fucking term and say, you're being anti-Semitic right now. If you bring up any shitty thing I do, you're an anti-Semite. And I think that's bullshit, dude. And I think that you can absolutely call people on bad behavior, just like I can call bad behavior on any fucking buddy else. And you should be called on your fucking shitty behavior. So fuck you.
Absolutely, dude. No, I agree. And I have a really big saying for that. I talk about this a lot on my shows. And I've seen some fairly hard evidence to really showcase this. Our reality is heavily manufactured. It's heavily scripted. I would even say it is a stage. I call it the world stage. The Jews that you're talking about, I'm sure you're already savvy to this there, Nate, is the Khazarians, the Khazarian mafia. They are not real Jews. They did not originate from the 12 tribes of Israel. And that is really how Zionism originated. That's where the whole Zionist concept came from, was the Khazarian mafia and the Khazarian Jews who were claiming that. And yes, I do agree with you that it is very possible that nothing, it could be a giant stage play. It is definitely could be a manufactured event. I did an episode where I really went into how the CIA, the Department of Defense, and the FBI, they quite literally have their hands in everything we intake, every bit of content. We also know that the CIA in Hollywood have a wicked revolving door policy. There's a lot of CIA agents that reside in Hollywood, and they work with Hollywood actors. So, you're looking at every movie, potentially every piece of media. You're looking at music, and there's even articles from the 1950s when the CIA infiltrated authors, and we're having authors write books in a different spin to actually help portray the CIA and the government agencies in a better light. So, I that's why, we're looking at this whole tunnel incident, up in New York City. And I'm not saying it could potentially be fake, but I'm saying there's also the possibility that this could be a staged event to help, catalyze emotional responses from the human collective that, help them kind of manifest a desired outcome.
I find it fascinating, and I'm here for the memes. They're fucking wild. I'm loving them. I don't know what them Jews were doing down in the tunnels. I don't want to know what the fuck those stains were on those mattresses. Jesus Christ. All I know is they do suck babies' dicks, and that fucking freaks me out. As soon as I start talking about the baby dick turn purple, look at us. It's the tunnel people. God damn it.
It's very interesting, man, the occult significance behind it all, man, especially blood. Seeing blood the way we do. Blood has such a huge occult significance. It is used in many things. You're even looking at your bare basic ritual, the communion that Christians use, symbolizing the blood in the wine. We look at a lot of pagan rituals and a lot of, Luciferian rituals. Blood is something high in life force energy. So even kind of seeing that on that mattress, could have even been some kind of weird symbolic signifier that they're
That was just the blood of Jesus. Don't worry about that.
The purple. It's great, man. It's great. But honestly, man, I think there's a lot of things happening right now because the Epstein list. They've been dropping that, and of course, it's been one giant limited hangout, in my opinion. I mean, they're essentially slowly drip feeding everything, and that's something I talk a lot about too. Is the way they do these things, man. Because I know a lot of people get up in arms that things like the Sound of Freedom didn't happen the way that they wanted to. Or this list happened, but this is the thing, man. And this is just what I've seen now. I say this in a way like, and I don't want to come off like any way with it, but I woke up in 2008. Like I had my revelations, my unveilings in 2008 when I saw the how the financial system worked. It was during the 2008 financial recession. Young 20-year-old me was all like, I better learn how this works. I'm an adult now. And I ended up looking it up and finding out about fractional reserve banking, and it led me down that rabbit hole there. And then 16 years later, the best thing I can say is this: that whoever or whatever's hands this whole situation is in down here on good old planet Earth, they have the whole collective of humanity in mind, not just people like you and I. And that is why it seems to be, at least from what I've seen. I mean, I know we have the stage play and the drama, the different instances we have in the news that gets the collective up in an uproar. They essentially do want some kind of smooth landing into this transition. It's the best explanation I can find because, in the 16 years I've been, studying this and looking over this, man, I can't tell you how many asteroids were supposed to hit the planet. I can't tell you how many financial collapses. World War III was supposed to start back in like 2015 and 2016. And I'm looking at these comments coming across the screen. And, Planet X was supposed to show up, December 2012, the end of the world, all of that. And, nothing has essentially, aside from a groundbreaking perspective, aside from the COVID incident, has really kind of come to be. So, and I kind of take this route with it. You look at a movie like The Sound of Freedom, and the way they did it, it was a limited hangout, and kind of how I try to reason with people on that is like, you have to understand, you try telling 380 million people in the most blunt fashion that every facet of Americana they've grown to love, respect, and enjoy is interwoven with pedophiles and child sex trafficking. I'm as scrappy as the next dude, but dealing with a whole country full of insane people after them finding this out, I don't think any sane person would welcome that scenario. And I know a lot of people can debate me on this, but that's essentially what I'm seeing, man, is there's a very drip feed, very slow transition they're trying to accomplish. And I think that kind of even leads into the fact that there could potentially be this, back to the bloodline conversation, there could be knowledge of this coming around. There could be people starting to understand these concepts and starting to weed out exactly what we would call this other kind of bloodline.
I heard something interesting the other day, and we can go back to the psyop that was the Sound of Freedom and the Epstein client list. But I heard something interesting the other day that, and many people have said this before, but I thought it was fascinating, and I actually kind of considered it. That this is a big simulation, right? Like this whole idea of this entire planet being a simulation, or whatever the fuck we are. And that we are just kind of like an alien experiment, and that we are kind of, maybe, I don't know, the whole idea, maybe this is the Truman Show, but we're a fucking live reality TV show for the aliens. Which is kind of cool, whatever. But let's say that there's mass disclosure. Like, there's obviously some people that are in on this shit. There has to be, right? There has to be part of the cast, right? That's like, and so maybe those are like the governmental officials, some people that are around us, the controllers, the people that are in, like, and maybe that's a bloodline thing, maybe even hybrids, right? That are, that are half fucking alien, something like that. That would be fascinating. But this person was saying, and I don't remember who this is, I try to give them some credit and a shout out, but they were talking about that if it became widespread, and that it's happened before, that knowledge became common knowledge, they would fucking end the experiment and it's gonna kill us all. And that's why they're actually trying to like scramble the fucking, like try to smash it down or a little bit, or trying to drip feed, like trying to slow it down and or like misconstrue it to save all of our lives, because the experiment's over. Like if the ants see that they're in the fucking thing, then they're gonna shake up the fucking ant hive and smash us all and start over again. That's an interesting idea. I don't know.
That is very interesting. That is insanely interesting.
I mean, if you think about, like, we've been having some interesting Gnostic conversations with some folks, and you think about like what kind of God created this world, and I tend more Christian myself, but I can kind of see where they're coming from, saying that like whoever made this is probably kind of an evil prick. And this is like I don't know, dude. It's fucking fascinating, and maybe it was aliens. And I don't know. I mean, and we could go back to the whole Anunnaki story, right? Were they some aliens that came down and saw some sexy monkeys, aka maybe Bigfoot, and humped them? And Bigfoot is our cousin. They're the only true like humanoids. Those are like our ancestors that we derive from, perhaps, right? And
Maybe
so
your ancestors. I ain't come from no Bigfoot.
Thomas, look at that beard. You're fucking more Bigfoot than the rest of us.
I don't know, man. I got a little bit of hair on me too, dude. I could have a Bigfoot ancestor. You never know.
So Thomas is saying he's more Nephilim. He's more God than the rest of us. Hey, you do have a very Thor beard, buddy.
He's got the Anunnaki beard, man. He's looking like Gilgamesh down there. He's got the Gilgamesh beard going on, man. There you go. There you go.
I want to know, has there been any new research into bloodlines outside of Holy Blood, Holy Grail? Because that's where I feel like almost 99% of this stuff points back to that book.
So actually there's, that's one thing I brought up for you guys to talk about tonight. There's a couple of other bloodlines that are actually, what's funny about these other bloodlines is they all really tie into this esoteric mystic principle and view. So there's actually a bloodline called the Druze, right? So the Druze are actually, they're an Arabic Semitic bloodline. It comes from the Druze faith. They're located in the Middle East, mostly around, Afghanistan, a little bit in Iran and things like that. But this is an esoteric bloodline that has supposedly been around since the ages of Atlantis. And they're actually really strict with who actually gets to know them. They do not allow marriage outside of their faith. They do not actually allow a lot of outside people to see their spiritual ceremonies. So there's actually kind of like even the Basque people. So the Basque people are very interesting too, because they exist in Spain, but they are a complete society of Rh negatives. And they have a language that's very similar to the Mayans and the Aztecs. It is not related to the Hispanic language at all. So the bloodlines actually it deviates outside of the Holy Grail bloodline. It deviates outside of what we would call the predator class bloodline. This is kind of a concept that seems to exist in a lot of esoteric traditions, and especially ones that kind of dive heavy into the occult, the occult significance of that blood. So I wouldn't be surprised if also there's some kind of symbolic meaning behind the bloodline too, because if there's something I've seen, and I'm going to touch back to what Nate here just said in a sec about the simulation, but it's very possible that the bloodline itself is symbolic. It could be traits and attributes. There's a lot of up in the air speculation when it comes to it. If there's one thing I've learned about this world and this reality, and maybe you guys can agree with me or, kind of see where I'm coming from on this, is symbolism would be a prime language here. And I think that written and spoken language is secondary because when you look at symbolism, it can showcase itself on so many spheres and in so many ways. I mean, you can take a symbol and you can put it next to two people who, come from two different countries, can speak two different languages, and they will understand that common symbol, whether it's on a conscious level or a subconscious level. And we know that the elites in the predator class of that bloodline, they love their symbolism. They love to put it into everything and anything they can. Some people think it is because they are karmatically bound to telling us what to do. I have another theory. I think they're trolling us. And that would be honestly, because you guys know, I mean, it has become so blatant in the past, I would even say 5 years, even more so, because I remember back in the earlier days, it was there, but you really had to look for it. Now it's like there's no holes barred. They don't care. They got all kinds of stuff everywhere. They're letting you know. To me, it almost seems like a troll. And I kind of even was talking about this with my co-hosts on the show, back when they were trying to get rid of gas cars and gas stoves. I'm like, gas cars, gas stoves, gas lighting. I was like, okay, so they're telling us that they're gaslighting us right now, is pretty much what they're coming out and they're saying is that this whole situation is a giant gaslighting thing. So, it's interesting. But back to your theory, Nate, real quick before I let you guys take over. That's a very interesting theory. And, there's one thing I'm going to say about the whole alien show. And this is something I feel I've experienced full throttle. The human is the extraterrestrial / angel, and the extraterrestrial / angel is the human. And the reason why I say this, I have had some experiences of my own that have showcased this to me. And I also, it kind of, makes a little bit of sense. So a lot of people think that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrials. That's definitely a possibility. I do think they were us, though. I think they were another form of us. Potentially one that came from another playing field. So if you look at Mars, let's just entertain that theory for a little bit. Mars had a better conditions for life. I mean, if we're talking by the current narrative and the current model, had better conditions for life than Earth when it was a fertile planet. It had a better water quality, a better gravity, and it would produce humans that look a heck of a lot like the Anunnaki. Very much taller, larger eyes, things like that. So, I mean, I'm not saying I know for sure that's where they came from, but essentially I think that we are one and the same with these beings. And that's why I think if you want to come down here in this lens to what I was talking about earlier, and you want to participate in a direct role, you got to hop in a human suit. If you don't want to participate in a direct role and not hop in a human suit, you are now shifted over into the indirect role. You can indirectly interfere here and do whatever you need to do. That's just my little theory. It came from a lot of DMT, but I'm a big believer that DMT is a gateway of some kind to another realm of consciousness. So
where do the AI bodies and the cyborg bodies come into this? So at what point do like, if I die and I go back and I get another quarter to pop into the vending machine, when do I get to pick like the RoboCop?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, man. I have no idea. There's a lot of people though who think that there are already lifelike robots walking around us, and I've seen some pretty strange evidence for that. And I'm going to be 100% honest. I had an experience back. So a little bit about me. I used to live in the Washington, D.C. area. Yes, I lived there for 25 years. I originally lived in Northern Virginia. Yes, it's all true. It's all true. I've seen quite a bit out there, but there was one. Now, this guy could have been he could have been a lifelike cyborg of some kind, or he could have been, I don't know, something posing as a human. I don't know. But I'm an electrician, and during my apprenticeship out there, we had to start work at 5 a.m. because we had to get in before all the office people came in. And I was working with this building engineer at a Booz Allen Hamilton. And now this building engineer was the oddest looking human being I had ever seen in my whole life. Like I've never still to this day ever seen a human being look this way. He had yellow eyes and yellow hair, not blonde hair, yellow eyes and yellow hair. He had African-American features, but he was white. He was not albino. You could tell he was not albino, but he had African-American features and he was white.
I already want to kill him. Where's this dude at? Let's skin this dude. He's got magic blood. I know it.
All I want to know is if that lady, if he had come to her to like fix her fucking plumbing or whatever you do, would she have complained? Would this be a white male, or would she have to like? She'd really have to like look at him and be like,
She'd probably have to take a second, man, because I swear to God, dude, he like I swear, like even his blonde hair was like frizzy, like it almost could have potentially, or his yellow hair was frizzy.
so we're talking about tunnel dwellers again.
Tunnel dwellers, exactly. This
Okay.
guy was definitely a tunnel dweller. And so one day, man, because I had to talk to him to get into certain places because he had the card and all that. So I'm sitting there, I had to get into a specific area of the building. And, I was talking with him and I'm looking at him and I shit you not, you two, his eyes blinked side to side instead of up and down. Now, I was looking at him like dead in his face, like I'm looking at you guys right now. And I'm thinking to myself, he has to know I saw that. He has to know. It happened right in front of me. So, I played it nonchalant. I played it off like I didn't see it. And I kind of went on my merry way to do my job. And, it's funny because ironically enough, I started listening to David Icke around this time. This is back in 2013. And, the next day, though, they had a whole new building engineer, whole new different guy, just like he got taken off the stage. Like he just got swiped out and swapped out. It was so bizarre. He was a completely different person. Had no correlation. And I asked what happened to the other guy, and he acted like he didn't know what I was talking about.
Other guy?
Other guy? What are you doing?
I'm the only person that's worked here for the last 5 years.
He went into the tunnels. That's where he ended up going.
Into the sewer.
Into the sewers, man. But I'm telling you, I think, even if we kind of like touch back to bloodlines for a sec too, man, I think that, maybe that there's that potential that RH negative bloodline, because it does not trace back to, what we talk about in the consensual narrative as a hominid ancestor, that it enables these beings to inhabit these bodies. And a lot of, this has come up in conversation and discourse before. So that's a very interesting concept. What is it about the RH antigen that kind of repulses them and does not allow them to inhabit these specific individuals?
Dude, I had a gentleman on in my show, and I've had him on a couple of times, and now no one can fucking get a hold of him. His name, or I don't even know what the fuck his real name is, but he went by the Texorcist. And he had a podcast. It was really fucking big. Like his show was blown up. And then he had some health issues. And so, Tex, dude, if you're out there, buddy, and you hear this, I love you, buddy. You've got my number. Fucking hit me up. Tex is a really, really fucking genuinely nice fucking guy. And if anyone wants to go back and listen to that episode, I'll try to fucking put the number in the show notes. I don't remember, but it's the first time we had Tex on, and he told me, so he is one of the Golden Bloods. Okay. He is RH Null, and he told me the story about going to the doctor because he was trying to have a kid, dude. He was trying to knock up his wife, and it just wasn't working. And so they were going to a clinic, to try to fucking get that moved along and shit. And they tested his blood, and they went, what the fuck? And they were like, something happened to the sample that we took from you. Obviously, it got corrupted. We've never seen anything like this, so we're gonna have to get another sample. So then they fucking took another sample, and it repeated, and they went, oh my fucking God, what the fuck? So they sent it to some expert in New York or some fucking university, right? And he thought they were pranking him. They're like, haha, yeah, very fucking funny. And they're like, no, I'm serious. That guy's sitting in the fucking waiting room right now. That dude basically was like, well, whoever's fucking sitting in your waiting room right now, I can't classify him as human. It's so fucking bizarre, so fucking weird. Their blood is so it's so fucking bizarre, dude. They are a universal donor, meaning you can give it to anybody with any other bloodline, and you can give it to any animal if the animal needs a blood transfusion, which is fucking fascinating. But they can't take a blood transfusion from anyone unless they are also Rh null. And they're one of the rarest, they are the rarest blood type in the world. I think there's only been like it's been under 100 found since like 1940 when they were discovered. Fascinating as shit, dude. And then he also told me the story about him kind of being monitored from the time he was young. Like weird men in black suits would come and like pay extra attention to him in school and give him extra weird tests, and would come to his house and would test his intellect and have him do all kinds of fucking bizarre things. Like,
how good was he at math?
I think Tex is fucking brilliant, dude. I think he's a smart fucking guy.
I'm just saying he might have had tutors.
You're talking about, do you think he got the extra help? You're saying, Thomas? Well, our last episode that we put out, I'm not sure if you heard it or not. We had a gentleman come on to say that Jewish rabbis rape young boys, and because of the anal penetration and the trauma that endures from it makes them smarter and it raises your IQ.
What the?
I was trying to be subtle about it. Now you like explain the whole thing.
What the fuck?
It's live on YouTube for some reason. Why haven't they fucking taken that down? I have no goddamn idea. Why do I still have a channel? And since I let this guy say that on my show, I don't know. But like now, like I have friends and people messaging me with inside jokes. They look at me and go, like, you look like you need your IQ raised.
Need some help with that math homework?
Yeah, you need some, yeah. I'll be your math tutor.
Oh my fuck. Oh dude.
I don't know if Tex had a tutor or not, buddy. But he was I think he was very smart.
That's that's good, man. I'll tell you, but no, that's interesting, man. So, one thing I've theorized about the RH nulls and the RH negatives, and this is just to be honest, I can't concretely say this, but based on some of the things we've looked at, there is definitely in the early days a different batch of humans here. I think that this Adamic portion of humans, that we all come from, had some tinkering done of some kind to not make us as robust, I guess you could say, and not make us as conscious as we are. I mean, there's a lot of speculation that, I don't really subscribe to too much of the new age stuff, but I mean, if you're looking at the concepts of knocking us down to, 2 DNA strands as opposed to the 12 that we once originally had, supposedly. I mean, but if you look at a lot of the skeletons that they found, I mean, even some of the Caucasoid skeletons that they found that predate like 13,000, 14,000, and some upwards of even 20,000 years ago. And the reason why I say Caucasoid is that just happened to be what they all were when they found them. I mean, they found I believe a 6.5 foot, 7 foot tall Caucasoid skeleton in the Eastern Asian area, which it was thought before that, that there was no Caucasian people there. And there never was.
AKA not allowed at that lady's house to do.
Not allowed at lady's house.
Yeah.
Or in much of New York, it seems like, or in Seattle and everywhere else. But no, and they were saying that, based on some of the tests that they could run, that this individual was Rh negative. So, one theory I potentially had is, Atlantis comes up in conversation and the talk of ancient civilizations. I mean, I think it's very possible that there could have been remnants from a different kind of human, per se, that it did survive whatever cataclysmic event that occurred at the end of the Younger Dryas, and could have potentially gone unnoticed and been able to breed with the other humans at the time. I mean, we look at the whole Book of Enoch story where the sons of God came unto the daughters of man. Is it very possible that these sons of God could have been these humans that were left over from the previous civilization as well? I mean, there's a lot of talk when it comes to this, but I forgot her name, but I got her. She's been throwing out the best tonight. But you know, it's interesting, man, on how your friend there, Tex, he has this RH no blood because it's an anomaly. It is, and there was actually a story I want to bring up. You two will probably dig this. I heard this from it was a UFO documentary I watched a while ago. So there was this British guy. He was in Britain, and he woke up in the middle of the night to find these two human-looking extraterrestrials in his room, and they were speaking telepathically, he said, and he said one decided to get on top of him and have his way with him. And yeah, they were both female, according to him. You know, the funny part about this story is it had some actual physical evidence to it, which I found really, and it was an RH null physical evidence. So what they ended up finding was, I guess, when this space chick decided to get her jollies off on this guy in the middle of the night when she showed up in her room, she left one of her hairs there on accident.
It wrapped around his penis?
Yes, it was.
Heard this story. Yeah.
You've heard this story? Yeah. It was wrapped. I don't know how that happened, but you know, nonetheless, we continue. But so he took the hair to get it analyzed, and it was RH null, and it was part of a very rare subgroup of humans that actually it was like 0.00014% of the human population actually had these traits and these qualities that this individual did. So, you know, that does beg the question, you know, I mean, we talk about breakaway civilizations and things like that as well. I mean, is there possible that there was a civilization, whether they were human themselves or they were human-like in nature, and carried, I guess, these different genetics that they passed on to us? But it's very interesting that your friend disappeared, man. I find that very odd.
I like the emphasis there that it's like a chick entity, because I'm not like, we didn't do gay stuff. It was a girl the whole time. See, I got a hair that proves it. It wasn't a gay ghost. It was a straight ghost.
It's like, I swear. And Tiffany, okay, there we go. Yeah, but no, that was a very interesting story. I mean, how often do you wake up in the middle of the night with two space females there just ready to pounce on you, man? I don't know. And that's what was interesting about the story to me, because I'm like, you know, of all the times. But no, I mean, it's crazy to think that, you know, there's just so much that's not told to us. There's a lot of things that are kept in the dark. And like you were even saying earlier, Nate, that if we get, maybe that's what the Great Reset essentially could be symbolism for, is if we do all wake up and we do understand what's going on, they reset the planet.
The Great Reset follows the Great Awakening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know, man. There's so many fucking potentials for what this Great Reset's going to be, dude, because it is fucking fascinating. I see the Great Awakening being pushed by people like Alex Jones and like really pushing it into the mainstream. Like, I look at Alex Jones now, dude. He is basically mainstream media. Like, we've talked about that on the show before. Like, he has more fucking like credibility with the schizos and with the right wingers than CNN ever fucking will, than Fox News ever will. And, you know, in a lot of ways, like, rightfully so, because Alex Jones is right about a lot. So I don't take that away from Alex Jones. In fact, I got a lot of love in my heart for Alex Jones. But I do see the way that he is also kind of separating people. Like, I listened to a show just not that long ago about with Alex Jones, and he was talking about the Great Awakening, and then it always has to turn political, and it's always the left wingers, right, and the Democrats that are the evil ones. And I get it to some degree. Like, yeah, the fucking Democrats fucking suck, but like, he is completely blind to anything that's going on in the fucking, like, I don't know, dude. It's so fucking divisive, dude. It's so goddamn divisive. But what do you think about, like, have you been hearing anything about like solar minimums? Have you heard anything about like what's actually going on with these weather patterns? I've heard stories that like because they keep talking about climate change, right? And we're also watching the elite. I put that in quotes because they're cunts. The elitists, right? These pieces of shit. They're talking about, but we know that they're up to weather manipulation. And I've heard the devil's advocate, right, where they're actually trying to slow down something that's naturally occurring,
Mm-hmm.
that they're actually like trying to fucking save us and we don't know. And we're like those bastards, but they're actually
No,
like
they're
trying to
white
fucking
hats, and
save
it's
us all.
actually it's JFK Jr. that's flying the plane.
Mhm.
Dude,
It's
I'll tell
JFK Jr. that's dropping the chemtrails,
Yeah,
that's
dude.
turning all the freaking frogs gay, and it's for our benefit, and we didn't even know it, and we're sitting there fighting them, like just out of like plain a plain tunnel dwellers advocate. Uh, let's say that the temperature really is going to shift. It's going to completely fucking change, and like what we have as far as agriculture and livestock husbandry and things like that is going to be completely impossible in like this shift that's coming. And so they're trying to fucking save our asses by trying to like lab meat that they can fucking do in an underground thing and trying to get us on crickets because that is actually sustainable and that'll give us some fucking protein that'll keep our asses alive when we're having an actual fucking like I don't know, dude. What do you think about that? Have you
So that
considered that actually they're good guys? The
so
lizard people and the RH negatives and the RH nulls, they're the good guys and they care about us.
so you know what's really interesting about what you're saying there, man. So I on there's one thing I'm really big about, and I've had kind of my my truth seeking journey kind of walk alongside my spiritual journey, and to a case in point that you just said with that, everything ultimately here services the creation. And it's kind of a very interesting way to look at it, because if you're looking at a lot of spiritual principles, in this world, duality, black and white, we always try to compartmentalize these things into these two boxes. Like it's either absolutely good or it's absolutely bad. But one thing that I kind of bring up too is you guys have had a bad situation in your life that's had a silver lining of some kind. And then, you've also had a good situation that could have potentially had a serious downside. So in our reality, there's no absolutes. We have things, at least in my eyes, that sway more in the balance of the light than they do the dark. And then we have things that sway more in the balance of the dark than they do the light. And that's kind of how I feel. There's no absolutes. And that I've even did an episode before where I talked about God, and even the Christianity version of God has used bad things and has made bad things happen to have good circumstances arise from them. So this is kind of where we start getting into higher reasoning and Platonism and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I do think that there are people. Yes, there is something that would be called a white hat that are kind of in there, looking out for us. As far as them trying to slow down the weather to save us, I don't know. As far as I have a real big problem with people taking my best interest in their own hands. That's just me. I know a lot
But
of you
the
feel that way.
worst things that have ever happened in history are done with good intentions.
Exactly. I mean, I take this from from JP, and I'm not trying to make you eat bugs, Tiffany. I swear. I'm taking this from JP. If I had an evil plan, would I phrase it to you as an evil plan? Absolutely not. You would not be on board because I'm phrasing it. But if I had an evil plan and wanted you to be on board, I would phrase it as benefiting all of humanity, that this plan is going to benefit you.
And if I wanted it to come true, I would suggest it in a way where you thought it was your idea.
Exactly. And that is a powerful human psychology tactic. And actually, I have a cool article I'll shoot over to you guys on how governments use human psychology to manipulate the population. It's just what they do. As far as an event that could potentially be happening, the one realistic one that I have seen, and I have talked to about him before just recently, was Ben Davidson's micronova theory. And in his micronova theory, what he states is that, and really what got me on this as a good night, Tiffany. I'm freaking as a possibility is because it lines up with the Mayan half cycles. It's 12,000 years, which is actually half the precession of the equinox here on the planet Earth, which the precession of the equinox is a rotation through all of the zodiacs. And then on the North Pole. So this event happens every 12,000 years. Apparently as half events that happen every 6,000 years. And then there's quarter and eighth events too. But they aren't as on a large of a scale as the 12,000 year event. So we're kind of past due for the 12,000 year one. But apparently what this does is our sun kind of does a hiccup. It does a kind of a burp, and it ejects its outer shell into the surrounding solar system. And this plasma shell comes into contact with our magnetic field. And what it does is it unlocks the crust from what's called the low velocity zone around the equator, and it causes a polar reversal. Whether it is permanent or it is a temporary polar reversal is still up to debate. But it out of any realistic scenario of a disaster that I could see happening on a world scale, this would be it. I feel it has the most sound evidence backing it as far as something like this. I mean, the guy has kind of done the work for it. As far as the climate, and so the one thing I hate about it too is that we're not really undergoing a global warming. We're technically undergoing a global cooling. When the ice caps melt, it cools down the jet stream. Okay, so if this cold water is going into the jet stream, what's going to happen is you're going to have a global cooling effect. And this is what I talk about. Like, any amount of money can dictate a scientific evidence article and can get it out into the mainstream and preached as fact. I mean, and so as far as that goes, I think that, the whole climate thing, it's a natural occurring thing that happens here on planet Earth. It always has. We have traces and evidence of this thing happening on planet Earth all the time. So I do not think they're trying to slow down the weather for our best interests, and I don't think the bugs are in our best interest. However, I do think there is something very interesting going on.
I mean, I also like our best interest schminterest, right? What if they're just trying to fucking buy time? Like, because we watch, like, I find it fascinating, like, the whole idea, because I think absolutely everything is a fucking psyop because I'm a schizo. And I look at things like, I think everything is fucking orchestrated. I think, like, why are we allowing these, like, third world, like, dirt people, the Houthis, to, like, slow down trade and disrupt trade in the Red Sea right now, and like in that fucking strait right there, like the Arabic Strait or whatever. Yeah. Why don't we just fucking, like, literally, if I fucking, like, poked a cop in the chest right now, I would get the smackdown of God. Right? That's what America does. We don't fuck around. America is the bad motherfucker. And we're allowing these little Yemeni pirates to, like, shoot at us and, like moon and show their ass and balls to us, like fruit basket us, and, like, act like they're bad motherfuckers when they're just like I no hate on the Yemenis. Actually, I've wanted us to pull out of the fucking war and end the fucking war in Yemen because it's fucking awful. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why they fucking hate us, because we've been funding the war in fucking Yemen this entire time with child genocide. Like, I'm half on their fucking side, but we could absolutely end that in 10 goddamn seconds. There's no fucking way we don't have 10,000 drones all around that fucking water. We could find one fucking pirate ship that's acting like a dickhead and go beep, like this, hit a fucking missile, blow them the fuck out of the water. Oh, yeah. Why are we allowing this? Because we want trade to be disrupted. We want a fucking, they're causing all kinds of crazy shit, dude. And, like, I've heard wild fucking stories, and there's no way to actually verify any of this, but, like, do you remember during the days when there was all these fucking, like, giant fucking ships off the coast that we weren't allowed to fucking let them into the ports, and we weren't allowed to process all these things, that they were taking all this shit and hoarding it in their fucking little underground tombs, mm-hmm. their little whatever you want to call it, their catacombs, the real cave Jews, the real tunnel Jews. Like, the fucking governmental motherfuckers are not even Jews. They're just whoever those psychopathic elites, they were hoarding all of this shit. And then that's why, like, prices and shit were going up for all this wild shit. That's where all the fucking supply was going. Mm-hmm. That they were hoarding the fuck out of this shit. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've also heard from smarter people than me, thank God, that we are going to see a drastic fucking price hike in every goddamn good known imaginable because of what's going on right now with those Yemeni pirates like shutting down trade right there. That's one of the most important trade routes on the fucking planet, bar none. And that because of that, we're going to see like in the next like month or two, it's going to fucking hit us hard and poor people are going to start fucking starving. And like, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's fear mongering, but I feel like it's all orchestrated. Like if we actually gave a shit, we could snap our fucking fingers and trade would be like, that's the only fucking valid excuse you can make for America being the world police is that we are keeping the trade routes going. If we're not doing that, then what the fuck are we doing?
100%, man. So the one thing you brought up earlier was the Truman Show, and I really like this analogy, and I do call it the Truman Show analogy. But instead of being advertised products in our reality, we're advertised narratives and trains of thought, and whatever narrative that we buy into becomes our own subjective reality. And if enough of the collective buys into the narrative too, it will manifest into the collective reality. I'm with you. It is definitely orchestrated. It is definitely done on purpose. Have you guys seen the new season of Black Mirror? I'm just throwing that out there. So on the first episode,
seasons haven't caught the rest of whenever Miley Cyrus got involved, I checked out.
So Thomas saw it. So he knows the first episode with the quantum computer and the digital lookalikes. It was a very strange episode. I can't
remember the name of it, but it's like Sarah's Horrible or something like
or whatever. Yeah, and she shit in the church. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But the whole thing they were talking about is how they keep people in a mesmerized state of terror. Now our fear, so the one thing I talk about is like fear. I talk about polarities a lot. Fear and love are a polarity. Love is a powerful manifester in and of itself, and fear is also. So what they are trying to do is, and here's the thing, I never claim that this is going to happen or it's not going to happen. I kind of don't have attachments to outcomes, anymore after the 16 years of all the things that were supposed to happen. But the one thing, like you said, fear is the mind killer. Exactly. And, what they do is they put us in this mesmerized state of terror. I mean, an instance, before New Year's Day, all of the mainstream media reporters were saying that they fear some kind of black swan event. Like they throw this into the human collective, and they get people on board with this narrative. And then what happens is the fear that's generated from the collective allows the narrative to manifest. This is like really like occult science. These people are like almost like on what I would call a sorcerer level when it comes to this stuff. They're very, very good at what they do. They understand human consciousness very well. Even back to what you were saying, Nate, about how we could have just sent drones. I mean, we have CIA operatives in pretty much every single country right now, kind of laying down, framework.
CIA operatives in the chat, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm 100% down, dude. You would be surprised, man. And so that's one thing I wanted to even say here too is like, there has been what I would call, some kind of is Davos. Yeah. So, yep, I see what you're saying there, Branch. But the one thing I want to bring up is, our community has been infiltrated a little bit. And I actually kind of did an episode on this, so there's Operation Chaos by the CIA, and there's Operation COINTELPRO by the FBI. So these were movements. So here's a good example. Operation Chaos infiltrated the Democratic Association for Colleges in 1969. Look at the colleges and the universities today. So what this is they do these infiltrations, these two programs. Now they have no hard end dates. The program started in the 60s. but they have no hard end date. And even the paperwork in the files on to say that there's no hard end date. So this could very well still be going on. And, you were talking about Alex Jones earlier. There's one thing I've noticed about anybody on our wavelength that has a massive, massive platform. And I'm talking like millions of followers. They either fit into one of these 4 categories. They either feed you limited hangouts. Okay. They're either sensationalist, okay, which they're sensationalist to the point where they're delivering you half truths, but their sensationalism is turning a lot of people off to what you could potentially be saying. And then you have the fear mongers and the black pillars, you know what I mean? Like people who are trying to instill fear. And then just kind of what you said, people who only highlight the issues and cause more division tactics among people in the community. I'm halfway convinced that in order to
Thomas, what does the CIA pay us to do? Which category are we in?
I got it.
Thomas, you're muted. You're not saying anything. He's not allowed to.
What is it? The old propaganda poster, loose lips sink ships. But
it's really I don't want Nate to get jealous that the CIA pays me a little bit more than he does, and it's going to turn into a whole fucking thing after this. I know it.
What?
It's not fair. It's discrimination. He's like Nate's like, I'm a white female. Okay, I deserve to have this.
It's actually the beaner part. They pay him like $30 less a day.
Dude, that's why they want us in here, because they know we'll work for less. They're right. They're fucking right. I get it.
I'm sick of these Mexicans taking all the good CIA plant jobs and all the agent provocateur. They used to pay well to be an agent provocateur, and now all these beaners are showing up, bringing their own work boots and everything. It's bullshit.
I'm telling you, man. But I'm not saying that everybody out there is like that. I mean, like there's definitely people out there who are trying to benefit us, but it's just based on observation from what I've seen. A lot of people, and then kind of TikTok has almost become kind of like a mainstream media for people in our community. Almost,
dude, for retards, absolutely, it is. It's full on mainstream media for retards. Absolutely.
I'm telling you, man, so it's like now it's, we have to even the water's got even muddier and murkier when it comes to kind of deciphering what's there and stuff. But, back to what you were saying, Nate, I digress. Like, yes, this is all absolutely orchestrated, most certainly. And I feel that it is done so because, like you were saying, they know that their time is drawing to a close. And kind of one reason why I think they do it as slowly as they do it, even kind of bringing up to save the experiment. Maybe there is something that is there with that. Another reason I think they're doing it so slowly is because they do not want civil unrest. They don't truly want that. Because if, you guys know, if we let it all hang open right now, it'd be the equivalent of ripping a 10-foot splinter out of, the entire American population. And that would be an interesting sight. I mean, but, or they're trying to make it out alive. One thing interesting theory I heard, I don't know if it's going to come to fruition or not, but a lot of these bunkers that these billionaires are buying are not to escape a natural disaster, but to escape from us. So that was a very interesting theory that I heard. And, that kind of played into the whole Epstein list drop. And, and it's funny too, because, and that's kind of why I think that could be the case, because Mark Zuckerberg ended up buying that, $100 million bunker in Hawaii. If what Ben Davidson is saying is correct, Hawaii would be the last place you want to be during this natural disaster. So what kind of reason would he buy that bunker in Hawaii? So it just kind of makes you wonder.
I feel that. I want to get away from us too. We suck.
Also, dude, I kind of want to give him a little bit of a shout out. Like, he seems to be, if you take what he says on the surface level, he also bought like a gigantic fucking cattle ranch, and he's trying to feed us healthy fucking beef, like hormone-free, happy, like basically he's making Japanese or like Hawaiian Kobe kind of fucking beef, where he's like feeding them beer and massaging the fucking cows, and he wants to sell like solid, delicious fucking beef to people. I kind of think that's badass.
I'm gonna
I
agree
think
that
that's
is.
kind of fucking cool. I don't know how expensive it's going to be. Maybe he's just making some delicacy that only him and his stupid buddies can enjoy. But I gotta say, like, he's gonna have a little family farm out there. I mean, that's the dream. He won all the fucking money in the world. He's got all the fucking money in the world. Maybe he's gonna get fucking smoked because he's trying to fucking retire. He's trying to fucking. I don't think you're not allowed to retire from this shit.
Dude, it's interesting, man. I always, one thing about me is I definitely, I have compassion when it comes to that. I mean, I'm not saying that there couldn't potentially be any good intent there, but the one thing I look at too, because I don't, you guys remember the whole sub incident, right? For the billionaires that died on the sub because they were trying to go
The homos trying to see the Titanic.
yes. So there was a lot of people who were in some ways celebrating the fact that they passed away, and a lot of people were kind of getting up in arms about it. So like I had to come kind of like in there.
Hey, if you believe the Titanic even existed, B, if you believe any of these people are real,
Exactly.
C, if any of it, like, if they actually fucking, like, I'm going to use my fucking PS3 remote and I'm going to go down to the fucking bottom of the ocean. This all could be complete fucking bullshit.
Exactly. And
I have
that's
no
what
fucking idea.
exactly. And that's what I kind of said. I mean, you guys have to look at because, and to me, that was plain sight because, I've never been in a sub, I can't say that I've been in any kind of private sub, but from what I've seen, I've seen a few National Geographics. No private sub is piloted by a PS3 controller. None at all. On top of that, the material that this sub was built out of was not meant to withstand these pressures, which I find really odd. Also, too, I think it was a couple of guys. It was their 33rd time in the sub, and I think yeah, and then I guess Epstein also dove the wreck 33 times, and there's a couple of articles. Yeah. There's a couple of articles coming out about that. So, oh no, dude, most definitely, man. That's another manufactured event.
Buddy, now think about this aspect of it too. Like, they really don't want us under the fucking water. And there's a fucking reason. Because outer space is fake and fucking gay. But whatever the fuck is really ruling this fucking planet is under the sea, under the sea, under the sea, under the sea. I think these motherfuckers are aquatic like a motherfucker. Mermen are real, motherfucker. If there are aliens, they're goddamn mermen. They don't want us looking under the ocean. Now they're scaring motherfuckers. Like, because before this, there was no goddamn regulations. You could be a dumb homo that made a bunch of money, and you're like, I'm going to make a submarine. And like, that's what this guy was. He was like a self-made retard that like made a submarine, and it wasn't obeying any fucking regulations. He's like, I just use plexiglass. I don't give a fuck. And like, then he like dipped down in the water and shit. You could do that. And now, because he like blew up a bunch of rich fucking white homos, I have to give a shit. And now they're going to put all kinds of crazy regulations like on this shit because they don't want us to build our own fucking submarines to go down there and see the fucking real aliens.
100%, man. I think, that's one thing I like, I think space is fake, lame, and gay, but, nonetheless, but no, I agree, man. And there's a lot, so there's one, I've actually subscribed to this theory a little bit. And the reason why is because it's kind of a happy medium between the two theories of Earth, and it's very possible. And there's actually some kind of weird evidence that points towards this. I do think the Earth is a lot bigger than we're led on to believe, and there could potentially be other lands on it. But saying what you're saying, very much so, man. I do think that there's a huge piece of truth underneath the ocean. I mean, if we're looking at the cataclysmic
history,
it is, man. Oh, I'm telling you, man. If you look at the cataclysmic event, sea levels rose dramatically. There could be so much evidence to humanity's past lying under our oceans. They most certainly don't want us seeing that because, one thing I talk about is there's a lot of interest into covering up our true nature and our true history when it comes to that. And, for a few reasons. One, I think if we found out our true nature, we would not need government and religion as we know it today. All of those control structures would dissipate as we know them today, and we would be living in a very different place. Also, too, you can't have a bunch of enlightened human beings walking around. That's bad for the machine. The machine won't function the way that they wanted to if there's a bunch of enlightened humans walking around. I also think that there's a form of technology that also comes with this discovering of our true nature. And this technology would not only put the oil companies out of business, it would put utilities out of business, it would put government contractors out of business. Supposedly, there's a lot of billion-dollar industries that would fall if this technology were to be released and to become widespread and known. So almost certainly, I do agree with you that they do not want us seeing what's under there. I believe there could potentially even be remnants of very, very old ancient civilizations that potentially had a higher type of technology.
Or active ancient civilizations.
Exactly. Exactly, man. There very well could be. And that's the thing too, man. And that's why, like, I never discounted Sasquatch. I never discounted any kind of cryptid or creature, because even as I was saying in my show the other night, we barely know the elephant's tail of anything. And anybody telling you that they know everything or they have the idea of everything is completely bullshitting you. I mean, that we barely know anything, if at all. So very much so could something like a Sasquatch exist. Very much so could there be a civilization under the sea that is very knowledgeable to us and knows how to avoid us. I mean, if you're talking about something that's been around for thousands upon thousands of years. And so, no, man, I'm with you on that. And that could have very well been a stunt to, kind of deter anybody from doing any of their own expeditions.
Yeah, dude, that's fascinating. I definitely, I'm experimenting with this. I don't know if this is better or worse. But man, it is absolutely fascinating, dude. Like the potential things out there, and something that we were talking about earlier, and it's something that like we don't talk about enough, is the spiritual aspect to this. Because you were talking about maybe some of these beings, these 10-foot tall, whatever the fuck they were, these RH negatives, like these sexy sluts that come and visit us at night to come and hump us. Whatever these ladies are, they want some of our DNA. But what the fuck are they? And also, like, there is a spiritual element to this as well. I mean, that I think was some serious disclosure from Alex Jones. Dude, he actually changed the whole ufological fucking world when he started talking about these interdimensional shape-shifting vampire child molesting demons, or whatever the fuck they are. I think that there absolutely is some interdimensionality to this. And when you think about these fucking creatures, like I've long thought about this, like, because we have to think about the interdimensionality of our existence too. Like, I definitely think about the whole idea that we are immortal fucking beings trapped inside of this meat suit, and that we are something special, that we can't be destroyed. Whatever the fuck we are, the spirit, whatever the schizo that's living inside this meat suit, living inside of this spick that wants to say all this wild and crazy shit. This guy lives forever. This energy doesn't get destroyed. What are these fucking beings? Like, are we from, like, because, like, in that aspect, I don't see any other creature on this earth acting the same way we do. Are we the, like, because of that genetic experiment, are we the only compatible fucking creature that can take whatever these outside entities are? Like, when we talk about aliens, are we actually talking about, like, these fucking weird energy consciousness that come down here? Could that be the fucking alien that comes at, like, are we a fucking active alien inside of this fucking meat suit? Is that what the whole, like, hybridization is? Like, we were fucked until we were an acceptable vessel that something could inhabit us?
I'm going to tell you this, man, and I'll go back to, and I'll tell you the two experiences I had. I'll punctuate them for you, though. The human is the ET/angel, and the ET/angel is the human being. So I had two experiences that really showcased this to me. So, one day I decided to undergo an entheogenic ceremony. I ended up eating 3 grams of mushrooms. Now, what I usually like to do is I like to smoke DMT at the peak. A lot of people think I'm crazy for doing that, but actually it's a better experience if you do it that way. It's less abrasive. It's instead of going from 0 to 200, you're going from like 120 to 200. And I feel like you can immerse yourself in the experience better. So at this particular time, I embarked on the DMT experience and I blasted myself out of this simulation. I literally landed out on the other side in my astral body, and I turned around and I looked and I saw our world, which was this dome. It was like this dome of light. And I turned around and looked on the outside, and there were all these other cities. There was life inhabiting everywhere on the outside of this place. And I remember I'm like completely like, oh, like this is awesome. So I start going, I'm walking around or floating or whatever the hell it is. And I go up to these humans and I'm like, what are you guys doing here? And then they looked at me and they were like surprised. And they were like, you're just one of us. You just decided to go over there and go do that. So like, it was a very profound experience. And that's where I first kind of saw that there are things here posing as human that are not humans. And the best way I could describe it is I saw them by the dome, and one of them had their head like stuck in the dome, and then it had its cohorts around him.
Is this you coming out of the closet saying you're not?
Yes, yes, this is exactly me. R. Kelly status coming out of the closet during this experience. And then, but no, and he would sometimes pop out his head and he would look at his friends or his cohorts and he would talk to them, and then he would stick his head back in. And then I remember looking over there and I'm like, that's highly bizarre. So like that was the first experience. Now the second one was kind of interesting. And, you know, I took it with a grain of salt, although I had another one almost exactly like it a year to the date. You know, so I was down here in this basement you see behind me. And, you know, I had just made a fresh batch of DMT. And, you know, my mind and my heart were good and aligned. So I decided to embark on this experience. And when I did this one, though, it was drastically different from any other experience I had. So reality decompartmentalized around me, and standing around me were these 7 very tall seraphim looking beings. And I remember I'm sitting there like behind me on like my cushion, like sitting there like, holy shit. So I feel like this water dropping on me. And that's the best way I can describe it. And I'm sitting there and there's no plumbing running through here above me or nothing. There's no leaks or anything. And I feel this water dropping.
Lady alien squirt, bro.
It was the dude. I swear to God, man, it was something, man. And then they ended up. I was like, "Where's this water coming from?" And they were like, and I heard. And the best way I can describe it is I call it emotional telepathy. I didn't hear it in my head. I heard it in my chest.
Interdimensional bean flicking, bro.
It was some dude. I'm telling you, bro. It was something. This fucking world. So they go, the water is a barrier between the dimensions, Steven. This is how we could come to contact you and talk to you. And I'm like sitting there looking at them, and I have no words at this point in time. And they go, we want you to come with us. And I was like, okay. And when they took me with them, I was in this state that, you know, I was myself, but it almost seemed alien, but familiar. And that was the best way to describe it. Like I was one of these entities. And then they took me to what they called the original human homeworld. And it was this dimension, and it was this crystalline city. Like it had these crystalline buildings, and they were all like geometrically perfect, like super streamlined. And, you know, there was these flowing green pastures. And I remember sitting there, and I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing humans in this city, and all of these humans, and that's where I was kind of like,
you to Tartaria,
dude, they had brothels and everything, bro. I'm not even fucking playing. Like I was so surprised, and you know, I'm like sitting there, and I'm looking, I'm like, okay, so we're a universal species. That kind of like hits the point home for me. Like there could be humans pretty much everywhere here at this point, and then that's where I heard, you know, that was said to me, like in that emotional telepathy, the human is the extraterrestrial and the extraterrestrial is the human. So that's kind of what kind of solidified that for me, like that whole experience, being in that state. And then what these things did, and they were sort of God, they were super tall. They had like 6 wings, and they had like almost like these serpentine bands of energy coming off of them. It was super crazy. And, you know, after that experience in my meditations, I can hear them sometimes. It's really strange. But I think, man, potentially where we came from, the ultimate, you know, question, and that has been a question of mine myself, is I think we originally, I get it, man. I know astral travel can be dangerous. I do protection and stuff when I do that kind of stuff. But, you know, the one thing I'll say is this. I don't think it's from this realm. I think originally the human form was crafted in a higher realm, And because of its nature, there had to be some kind of experimentation down here in order to have what I would call the human totality, whether it's an extraterrestrial presence or it is just a higher format of who we are, to be able to inhabit this plane. So I mean, it's a very interesting thing, man. That I don't, it's a very hard thing to nail down. Do I think people know the actual truth? I think so, but it leads credence to what you were saying about how if we learn too much too quick, there's going to be a end of experiment. There's going to be a shutdown. So where we come from, man, I have my theories, I have my speculations. There are some odd things about us that don't kind of sync up with other life on this planet. One thing I talk about when it comes to macro evolution, micro evolution, the Darwinian theory has tons of substantiated evidence, but macro evolution, it has a lot of gaps. And if you look at us as humans, if you look at the life that evolved on this planet, I mean, you can look at a leopard, right, or one of those cheetahs, and they can fall from a 40-foot cliff, get back up, dust themselves off, and freaking walk on with their day like nothing happened. If one of us took a fall from that cliff, we'd be fucking dead on impact. I mean, you look at these animals that, why did we lose hair to don clothes? If we talk about Darwinian evolution, we are supposed to evolve with favorable traits. And if we truly evolved in a Darwinian fashion, we would probably have a winter coat that would grow in of some kind during the winter. And then we would shed it off in the summer when the weather's warm and things like that. Humans also need the most C-sections out of any other living being on this planet, and our circadian rhythm is also the circadian rhythm of Mars. It's 25 and a quarter hours. It's not technically 24. So the human being itself, at least in my opinion, is an anomaly here on planet Earth. I mean, they do mental gymnastics to try and link us. I do think that the current avatar that we inhabit did come from potentially a hominid hybrid of some kind. But as far as what I would call humanity itself, I think that is a higher realm that we originated from personally, and why we came here.
Higher or lower, but definitely
lower. It definitely had brothels with space bitches. That's all I'm gonna say. So I don't know why we left that kind of life to come back here and do this shit.
Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't misunderstand or just hear something that I was listening for. Are there seraphim brothels out there?
If there is, bro, they're in that crystalline city, man. I know how to get you there. You're just gonna have to come over, and I'm gonna have to give you the shamanic experience, bro. That's pretty much it. I can get you there, though.
Well, will I walk away better at math?
Yes, you will walk away better at math. I can promise you that.
Let's get Gnostic for half a second here.
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
Like, I had a pretty interesting conversation with Miguel Connor, pretty interesting Gnostic thinker, and we kind of had this. This is Gnosticism 101. So any of our Gnostic listeners is going to think I'm a retard, and that's fine. Our regular listeners think that I'm a Gnostic goober retard too. So everyone thinks I'm a retard, and it's fine. But we were talking about the idea of, like, when you die, there are these entities, aka like what the fuck do they even call them? Thomas, what are the Gnostic devils called? The archons that try to like trick you back into this cycle, right? And when we die, right, there is a butt shit of DMT that is in our brain that just fucking drops. And that is kind of like, to me, that's kind of what like shoots us into the spirit world, right? And so that's what they kind of call the DMT, like the spirit chemical or the spirit molecule, right? And so like we get a little glimpse into maybe a fabric of actual reality or what else is out there when we take DMT. And I also had mentioned this to him. I think it's the University of London, or it's I can't remember. It's some fucking university in England that is doing testing right now with students, and they are doing DMT trials where they are administering it in a way intravenously that they are holding the peak at like closer to an hour than 20 minutes. And they're having them map what they see, who they meet, what they, where they go. And like we talked about like the different interesting ideas that like this actually could be the control structure of the archons, like studying it and like finding a way to better control us. Like if they can see what we can see, if they can learn what we, where we go, what we see, and like better map and to shove us back into the fucking structure. That might be a fucking fascinating idea, that it's like actually the archons that are fucking like in charge of this. And like I think about that too with this whole at least in a clinical trial, they're really trying to push the idea of psilocybin and psychedelics being pushed into the mainstream, and they're like mass legalization of weed, mass legalization of shrooms, mass legalization of MDMA, mass like. Do you think there's some co-option there? What do you think's going on? Any thoughts on any of the shit?
Yeah, I do think so. I actually talked about this last night. I joke because I tried to find the application for that study, and I really wanted to find it and I could not. But the one thing I will say is it's a double-edged sword. The experiences I've had through dimethyltryptamine and other entheogenic compounds, I've had very remotely positive experiences. I've had negative ones, don't get me wrong. But I do think it's a double-edged sword because it depends on the frequency of the experience, depending on where you go. Now, I do believe that the intelligence agencies all over the globe, but they already have access outside of here, and they have gotten that from the archons, and they actually, believe it or not, have people posted or things posted in these different realms that help monitor the activity. So I think you're onto something there. It could very well potentially be. So I actually I'll tell you guys real quick, I had a very negative experience where I was jumped by the reptiles on mushrooms. And that was not a fun experience. And so that can definitely, it was very bizarre. It happened back in November. I was doing a heroic dose. It was like 4.5 grams. And, I remember as it's coming on, like something felt strange. So, I homebrew wines. So, I decided that I would go get myself a glass of wine, and I'm sitting there at the table, and then as I go to drink the wine, I kid you not, and I shit you not, it felt like something shoved the glass into my face. And I remember like I sat there and I was like, what the fuck? And I did that, and then all of a sudden they manifested, and the best way to describe them are these like hyperdimensional fractal reptilians. And they manifested, and they were all sitting there laughing at me, poking at me, like, doing strange things to me and things like that. So I was like sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, I'm going to go say my mantra. Maybe this will back them off of me, So I went upstairs into my shower, and I'm going to say this mantra. I've been saying this mantra every day. And then they start to close their hands around my throat. So I kid you not, I'm legitimately feeling these physical sensations of this. And I remember sitting there, they're closing their hands around my throat. I can't say the mantra. So I walked out of the bathroom for a second, sat there, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this. So I go upstairs into my bedroom. So, I'm kind of like I'm a Qigong practitioner. I do meditation and different kinds of yoga and things like that. So I started focusing on my energy centers, like I'm like, like trying to purge them off of me. And then finally that got them off of me. But the bizarre part about it is when they came off me, there was like this streak of energy they were eating from me when they like came off of me. And I remember I got off, and then like they backed into the corner of my bedroom, and then I shut the door. And I was like, all right, I'll deal with you guys later. I need to go, digest what the fuck just happened to me. But no, I believe the higher frequencies are being weaponized right now. 100% I do. I do think that is why there is a big push for, in certain aspects, the commercial legalizations of certain things. The one reason why I think Colorado is
never in our interest, dude.
It's never, man.
Never in our interest.
It's never. And that's why one reason why, I think Colorado at least was altruistic in its fashion for doing this, at least with Prop 122 is because the entheogens will not be legal in dispensaries until like 2026 or 2027. From what I was saying, right now they're only available at healing centers. So that's kind of why I like, I take it's that's why I say it's a double-edged sword, because I do think there's some people trying to do it for a good reason. And then I do think that if
who gets to pick though what constitutes a healing center? I think so much so, like when with the CIA, when they were weaponizing like institutions and things like that, they were experimenting on people and like hospitals and things like that. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't know, like all of a sudden some fucking CIA doctor goes, "I'm a healer."
I'm telling you, man, it could, and you're very right about that, Nate, because like we have a lot of people who are, and I agree with you there, Wood Train. Yeah, they're not all of them are bad. DARPA weaponizes frequencies. Yep, that's another thing too to definitely talk about. But no, man, I'm with you, dude, because if you look at Timothy Leary, CIA plant, you know what I mean? If you look at the whole Grateful Dead instance from the late 60s and stuff like that, there was a lot of MK Ultra supposedly in there. There is a weaponization of the higher frequencies 100%, and I think that's where the government push is coming from. As far as the individual, and the individual could be there. I know the two people personally who did push Prop 122 here. They don't scream CIA to me, but then again, I never know. You know what I mean? You never know. And like I said, going back to the infiltration of everything, everything has been thoroughly infiltrated. There could very well be people in this community, like Thomas over there, who's a paid, who's coming in and taking care of it. But that's a very good point there, Nate. And I think that's why we do have to be cautious. And that's why I kind of recommend, if you're going to intake entheogens, just grow your own. Don't get them from,
Yeah, dude, I think so much about like the fucking, well, dude, honestly, I know Thomas loves dabs and shit, but dude, I think that shit is so crazy. Like, I took a dab and I had a conversation with myself for about 45 minutes. I was skits the fuck out. Like, I used to be a big pot smoker. I don't smoke pot very often, if ever, anymore. I just can't handle it. And because weed is so goddamn powerful, it's nothing like the fucking plant that used to fucking grow out of the ground. It's nothing like the fucking dirt and seed Mexican. Shout out to the Mexicans, to the dirt Mexican brown weed that you'd get. They would get you high. And you're like, I'm having a good time. Yeah. Now it's like, this is X22 hyper extreme shit lord fucking kind, and then they like concentrate it to it's like this to your shatter. And then you fucking smoke that and you go to the goddamn moon. And dude, it's fucking intense, dude.
I'm laughing because they do the same thing to me. I'll stare at my fridge, bro. I won't even open it. I'll stare.
It's silly to me though, because really what we're talking about is that instead of going outside and smoking an entire blunt, like 2 grams of flower material and all the chlorophyll and all the carbon and everything else that comes with it, you could just take that, put it and on the low end, put it in like a hair presser, stand on it for a couple minutes, squish out all the rosin, and do that same exact blunt, but do it in like 2 or 3 inhales of vaporizing fresh pressed rosin. And like, why would that be any worse than sitting there and smoking an entire blunt for like 40 minutes? Like, you can smoke that whole blunt in 20 seconds.
Also,
and it's better for you.
I agree with you. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if it's better for you. But I also think that with a lot of this fucking legalization, it opens the fucking door for like basically big pharma, aka or big giant mega corporations to start consolidating all of these fucking farms. Like, you're not fucking, like, I knew family fucking farms that were fucking growing cannabis. I grew up in Humboldt County. And I knew fucking like family farmers that have been growing the fucking weed the same way for literally generations. And they had some of the best fucking weed you can even imagine. And it was a clean, fucking tasty, fruity, delicious fucking flavor when you fucking smoke this stuff. And it get you high as fuck. And it was, and it was wonderful. It was a clean high. It was a fun high. And like the shit nowadays, like it's so full of fucking like pesticides and weird fucking chemicals. You're opening the door for weird fucking
Okay,
GMOs.
boomer. I remember
I'm
opening up a
serious,
bag of,
Thomas. Like,
Okay.
but I remember
See-
opening up bags of like this Mexican dirtweed that you're freaking in love with, and finding like that
buddy,
a head of a
Humboldt County
cockroach.
weed was not Mexican
You got
dirt
an
weed.
ounce for
It
like
was
50
fucking-
bucks of that shit back in the day, man. It was like, yeah, it was a good deal.
It was fucking good shit. But yeah, but
I
even the
like,
Mexican dirt
I'm
weed,
the
right?
I'm the devil's advocate statist, goober on this one, but I think
Thomas
that it's
wants
good.
Walmart to sell fucking
But I
jars.
like that I now when I get flour, right, it tells me like where it was tested, even if it's all bullshit. But it tells me the lab that it was had the fake bullshit testing on and all the different percentages, if there was pesticides found. I like that because at least they're lying to me, but they're going through the effort. Meanwhile, like if I try to ask a dealer back in the 90s, hey, what's the name of this stuff? And they would just make up some, oh, that's double bubble dragon kush. And like, be on your way. And
That's
I don't know.
because you grew up in fucking wherever you grew up, Thomas. In
Yeah, it's
Humboldt
true.
County, there was fucking fantastic fucking
Yeah,
weed.
you're not wrong.
Use
You're
your
not wrong.
fucking growers.
Oh yeah, dude. No, it's interesting, man, because like I kind of sit in the middle of you two on this, and I think out the one thing out here in Denver that the Denver, Colorado area, so we have mom and pop dispensaries, and we have like chain dispensaries, and the reason why I say mom and
But
pop,
are they fucking selling mom and pop weed at these mom and pop dispensaries? Because at least out here in Oregon, where it's all fucking legal too, you can buy all the recreational you want. They're all from like every single brand is like from like 3 different fucking grows. You know what I mean? Like they just put different labels on it, and it's all like it's getting mega conglomerized. Like we're getting like Oscar Mayer weed.
100%. So there's one that I
I almost
frequent.
got a boner right now. He fucking loves
It's,
it.
it's next to my house, so it's called Chronic Therapy. They do all their they're growing in house. It's grown,
Cool.
it's grown there, it's tested there. It's the only chronic therapy. It's a family owned one. And I trust their stuff. They've even shown like the testing process and stuff to people in the dispensary themselves. Like it's a good place. There are what I call like the big chain dispensaries though, and that have multiple locations. They're corporatized. They exist in every weed legal state, not just here in Colorado. Those are the ones that you need to look out for. It's a funny thing about
And
cannabis.
those are the cheap ones, dude, where I can get an ounce right now for like $30.
Oh yeah, man.
And it's fucking fire.
Oh, dude, but I pay, what is it, a little for I pay 120 at the one across the street, but it's worth it because it's a family owned, it's mom and pop, it's the only one that there is, and they do all their growing in house. And and I kind of look at that and I'm like, okay, so but the one thing I will say though is, so I actually had a friend of mine back on the East Coast. His dad was a drug charge defense lawyer and things like that. And got people off a lot, but he didn't use any weed himself. And he said weed was actually a form of mind control that was put out by the CIA during it was popularized during the 60s. But here's the thing, like the thing where I look back on that is cannabis has been used since humans have been walking upright. I mean, we found what was it? They found this bong from the Aryans in the Caucasus Mountains. And it had weed and opium residue in it. And on the bong, they had like selfies of each other, like all partying and shit, like carved into the side of the bong and shit like that. I thought that was hilarious. But, so humans have been using cannabis for a long time. So I think really the mind control aspect of it, or the infiltration of it, didn't begin, at least in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, till the 60s, really, when the psychedelic era started to become highly popular and stuff like that. So I really think that it's, again, a very strange double-edged sword. I think that there are corporate interests trying to use it for nefarious reasons. I know word goes around out here that cartels get into a lot of the mainstream dispensaries and work in a lot of the big box dispensaries and do things to the weed and things like that.
That's what legalization did to California and what it did to Humboldt County.
It did,
Cartels fucking took over the big, large grows. especially the big outdoor grows. They're fucking. They've taken out a lot of mom and pop shit. There's like, it's fucking ugly. It's gross.
I mean, what's worse, Walmart takes over or cartels take over?
Well, it's the same thing, I guess, but like, because I look at
That
fucking
sounds
Walmart
a little
like
bit
cartel.
racist. That you don't want to buy weed from cartels. Why?
They openly kill you. Like,
Well,
I don't even want, honestly, I'd rather talk shit about Walmart. Here's the difference. I'd rather openly talk shit about Walmart than talk shit about cartels, because cartels legitimately might fucking kill me, and Walmart, I don't know what the fuck Walmart might do. They might send me a cease and desist.
they'll send you a note that says we're going to sue you for slander if you continue.
Mhm.
And that's it.
I mean, honestly, I just want to mention though that devil's advocate, that's another plus for the corporatization of weed, because if you stole weed from your dealer in the 90s, like you might just disappear from the planet.
It doesn't need to be
If I go into a
corporatization, Thomas.
dispensary,
We just have to stop the fucking illegalization of it. If we
that
fucking
sounds like a lot more work.
legalize
though.
it.
That's more work.
No,
I'll
it's
tell you-
not. Just tell the pigs to leave people alone.
That
God damn it,
sounds
it's less work.
now who sounds like an idiot? Come on.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, no, it's weird, all the gray areas with it, man. I mean, I enjoy cannabis. I smoke in the evenings to unwind. I'm not a huge drinker, even though I brew wines. I just kind of do that for fun on the side. But there's definitely valid points on both your ends, man. I mean, if we're looking at it, what is worse, Walmart or a cartel? But then at the same time, too, you're looking at what you're putting in your body. And again, that's why I say, if you're going to consume this stuff, I wholly believe you should grow your own. You should learn how to cultivate your own. You should learn how to, the process of it. I mean, cannabis is a very easy plant to grow. Psilocybin mushrooms are
Literally called a weed.
Yep, it's a weed, and so that's really your best surefire method to make sure that nothing you're getting with is being fucked with or tainted, is to just strictly grow your own. And I even, it's funny, as I grew the opium poppy for the first time 2 summers ago. Yeah, I did. I gave it a shot because I had the I saw what big pharma did to the pharmaceuticals and stuff like that, and I knew it had a natural counterpart. I had never tried the natural counterpart, so I said, fuck it, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to grow it. So I ended up growing 2 pots worth of them. And then what I ended up doing with them is making a tea. So I ended up, taking the pods once they were oozing with the sap and they had the white sap on the outside of them. I ended up cutting them. I put them into a coffee grinder, ground them up, and I did a tea with them with some lemon juice. And, I ended up getting
all this is in Minecraft. Anyone?
Yes.
listening?
Yes. If you got Minecraft, you got the training for this, man. And it was a great experience when done that way. And honestly, I think that that's the way it was meant to be used, was in that fashion. I don't think it was met, because that's what, even getting down to what I would call the consensual narrative, us humans, what we like to do is, we find the active ingredient of something and we're like, fuck it, let's intensify that. Let's extract that shit and make it strong. And then, we have the same thing, when beer and wine, when liquor was first distilled back in the day, when they started distilling spirits, they're like, let's make this shit stronger. Same thing with weed. The weed that you're talking about, Nate, was probably had all the cannabinoids in it. It had THC, CBG, CBD, and stuff like that. But the weed that's available in most dispensaries, they're like, fuck all that shit, just make it super high in THC. That's the main shit. Let's fuck with that. And then it's the same thing with the opium poppy. They decided to take the opium poppy and they're like, hey, let's make all of these active ingredients way stronger. And now we have the fentanyl crisis. So it's definitely, if we're going by the consensual narrative, humans do things like that. At the same time, I do believe like a lot of the drug crisis too is part of a depopulation plan, especially with the fentanyl and things like that.
Dude, everything is coming down to a fucking depopulation program.
Oh yeah.
Almost everything you can point to it and go, oh, that's to kill us. Oh, that's to kill us. That's to kill us. Left and fucking right, dude.
Oh yeah, man.
BG Cast, buddy. We've been fucking doing this almost for 2 hours.
It's a good combo, guys.
Make some dinner. We're gonna have to do this again. This was a blast, bro.
Yeah, it was, man. No, you guys are awesome, man. You know, I'm definitely going to continue checking out more of your shows. I'd like to have you guys on too. So, you know, when we get done here tonight, I'll reach out to you about what's good for you in February. If you guys want to come on. And yeah, no, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me here. It was a true honor, man, to sit down with you guys and talk. And you know, yeah, I could keep going, man. The conversation's great. And but no, I got to get to.
We're gonna have to keep it going. Absolutely, brother.
I'm telling you, man. Well, guys, you know, thank you so much again for having me, guys. If anybody did like what I said tonight, you can find me. I'm part of Forbidden Knowledge Network. If you know Chris Matthew and you know Ryder Lee,
we love Chris. Yeah, we love Ryder. So shout out to everybody. Yeah.
Oh, definitely a great group of guys, man. They've become great friends over the course of this year. And you know, I'm on Forbidden Knowledge Network. You guys can find me on Rumble, BGcast. I'm available on all podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Rockfin, Buzzsprouts, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and X, guys. So if you want to drop in and say what's up, I'm there. And thanks again, you know, Nate and Thomas having me on. I really appreciate it.
Hell yeah, brother. Thomas, what are we promoting tonight, buddy?
The big one, go to paranoidsummer.com. It's going to be where I release the next 4 big Paranoid American titles. So
I don't think
Lee
I've
Harvey
heard this
Oswald
one. Paranoidsummer.com?
Paranoidsummer.com, because that's where all the summer releases are going to come out from.
Very cool.
Hell yeah, dude. Do you want to give us a sneak peek or a hint about what's coming?
Lee Harvey Oswald, Demon Hunter is one of the titles. Rising from the Ashes with Homie Romy, Danunaki Dan, and Slick Dissident are all in that comic. There's one called Mold about a lunch lady that gets revenge on the shitty middle schoolers, and she goes into Hollow Earth and makes a pact with the Mushroom People. That one's going to be pretty dope.
The Mushroom People?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Thomas. Okay.
And also we're going to be starting a math tutoring service. It'll be paranoidmath.com. We're still working out the legal logistics.
Will increase your IQ.
You get tutor me. You get to tutor me, right?
Me, Daddy.
Tutor me harder, Rabbi. Tutor me harder, Rabbi.
Oy vey. I love it. All right, if we haven't been canceled before, we're canceled now.
But you can't forget the Manischewitz, man. It's not Jewish enough if you don't have the Manischewitz, bro.
It makes the tutoring go down smooth. Fucking A.
Fucking A, guys.
We have a new outro that we are going to close with, and it's amazing. Made by sound scientists, aka Paranoid American. Go to paranoidamerican.com. All right. Love you all.
Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Guys.
Reality stars. We're reality stars. You know who we are. We're reality stars.
If you enjoyed this content, please be sure to leave a 5-star rating for Reality Zers wherever you are listening to this podcast. If you like the music and visuals, visit paranoidamerican.com for more.